You don't rise to the moment. You stand on the floor you've built. Because investing in your ceiling is investing in a moment. Whereas investing in your floor, now that's a commitment towards sustainable growth. Hey, this is Steve, and this is the Growth Ready Podcast, Coach's Corner. Welcome into the Growth Ready Podcast. I'm Steve Mellor, and this is our Coach's Corner series. It's some alternative versions of the show where we remove the concept of the interview and I just speak for about 7 or 8 minutes on a topic that I feel is near and dear, close to my heart. A space where we are going to uncover the real lessons behind coaching, leadership, and growth. So, without any delay, let's dive in. I remember one of the first real corporate workshops I delivered after leaving some coaching. Not one of those small breakout sessions, not a comfortable room where I knew everyone. This was different. 10 workshops over 6 months to a room of the same 15 leaders. And I had done what most people do when they didn't necessarily feel ready, and they wanted to feel ready. I built some beautiful slides. I tightened the agenda. I rehearsed all these key lines. Everything down to the branding was looking sharp. On the outside, it looked as though I was prepared. But at the first point of the opening workshop, I paused for some questions. And the question was just specific enough that I felt something inside of me. A small internal wobble, if you will. It wasn't panic. It was just this thinness, if you will, a fragility with the potential for it to lead to all-out exposure. I realized something in that moment. My presentation might have been polished, but my understanding of the content was decent at best. In other words, my foundation was weak. My floor wasn't fully built. I was still standing upon my effort instead of my standards. And when the stakes rise high enough, as they did at that moment of the first workshop, so often our effort alone won't be enough to meet the call. So what do I mean by this metaphorical floor? Because we talk about goals a lot. Revenue goals, impact goals, leadership goals, audience goals, performance goals, the list goes on. In fact, it's a question I get asked all the time. Steve, what's the ROI? What's the return on investment for coaching? People naturally want to go toward the outcome. But in its simplest form, I consider a goal a ceiling. And these ceilings or outcomes that you focus on won't determine how steady you feel in any given moment. And that is where the floor comes in. Your floor are the standards that you stand upon every day. It's the preparation that doesn't fluctuate. It's the behaviors you repeat when no one is watching. It's the mindset you bring into uncomfortable moments, and it's the identity that you're reinforcing quietly through your actions. You can't be ready for high-stake moments if your floor isn't built to withstand them. As goals rise, stakes rise, and the floor must rise to support them. Your standards are the floor. They're what allow you to look back after a meaningful moment and say, that's why I felt steady. That is why I felt ready. So after that initial workshop, turns out I didn't think, I need better slides. I need better delivery. My branding needs to be improved. No, I thought to myself, Steve, it's time that you focused on what matters most. I needed deeper mastery, cleaner thinking, more curiosity to focus less on being impressive and be more committed to being impactful. That was a standards issue, not a goals issue. And here's where this matters. When we avoid adjusting our standards because we don't want to either question our identity or believe enough in who it is we're trying to become, that's what I call growth resistant. It's not anything overly dramatic or overly destructive. In fact, the worst part about it is just how subtle it actually is. And the fact that we don't see the need to look in the mirror because of that. And we certainly don't invest in raising our floor. The goal of delivering an impressive workshop wasn't wrong, but the decision to focus more on impressing instead of impacting was where I was getting stuck. I had to believe I could be a man of impact and that this company didn't need me to be impressive. I just learned that impact was a necessary standard, and I'd just taken my first step toward knowing a key ingredient of my flaw. Folks, when something doesn't go well in business, in leadership, heck, in life, the instinct is to often protect something. Protect competence, protect reputation, protect identity. And trust me, I've done it. In those early years of Growth Ready, there were moments where I wanted to protect the image of being ready instead of admitting I had more building to do. A fixed mindset tends to defend identity after failure. It explains, it rationalizes, it preserves the current flaw. But growth doesn't accelerate when we protect old versions of ourselves. A growth mindset treats failure as data. It asks, what standard needs adjusting? It allows the flaw to evolve instead of us protecting it. You call it growth-minded. I like to call it growth-resilient. It accelerates when we're willing to examine and own our flaw honestly. A story that I'm reminded of is when Satya Nadella stepped into the leadership role with Microsoft, and the company, well, it wasn't failing. It was profitable, more than established, highly respected. However, internally, there was this tension. There were silos, competition between teams. There was this culture that subtly rewarded being right more than being curious. It was nothing catastrophic, but the flaw wasn't aligned with the future that they wanted. Nadella began talking about becoming learn-it-alls instead of know-it-alls. That shift, it wasn't about strategy first, it was about standards. As curiosity became a daily expectation, collaboration became a shared responsibility, and the evidence of a learning culture became visible. In time, that shift was a shift in standards that reshaped performance. The ceiling began to rise because of a growth resilience that had already started and had started to raise the floor. Now, much like Satya Nadella with Microsoft, I've learned to do with my own company. And please don't think I'm comparing little old me versus one of the largest, most successful companies in our history. But it turns out, even in these completely different universes of business, there are relatable teachings. In those early years, as I tried to put the business on the map, I had to confront something quietly uncomfortable. There was a version of me that liked being seen as prepared and impressive. Beyond the articulate accent, I wanted to show I could be an expert. But that version sometimes resisted asking better questions, resisted admitting gaps, and ignored opportunities to deepen and widen my craft. And I had to decide, which version of me am I building? And which version of me am I still protecting? because you can't pursue who you intend to become while protecting who you need to outgrow. Raising your floor isn't about intensity. It's about alignment. This is what growth ready really means to me. It's not hype. It's not intensity. It's alignment. It's making sure your standards, your floor consistently match the stakes you say you're willing to carry and work toward. It's about making sure your daily standards match the future you claim you want. If I could go back to that early workshop, I wouldn't change the slides. I would change the floor and focus on the floor that I'd neglected. I would have gotten more coaching reps, executed more discipline, reflection, and pursued more curiosity under pressure. Because when the executive asked that unexpected question, what I needed wasn't a better script. I needed a greater awareness to and practicing of my standards. So before you set your next goal, before you chase that bigger client, the bigger stage, the bigger outcome, pause and ask, what is my floor right now? And is it built to handle what comes with the stakes I'm pursuing? Because you don't rise to the moment. You stand on the floor you've built. Because investing in your ceiling is investing in a moment. Whereas investing in your floor, now that's a commitment towards sustainable growth. I really appreciate you guys listening to this Coach's Corner. These are recordings that I take a lot of time in preparing and ensuring that the content itself provides you with some form of a stimulus to go away and take action. I hope today, after listening to this, you put that mirror up and you think and consider, what does my floor look like? What are some of the standards in my world that I've been neglecting or that I claim are important to me that it's time I truly prioritize and start to reinforce? If that's what you took from today, awesome. And if you took something else, I'd love to hear what that is. And furthermore, I'd love for you to take the time to go ahead and rate this episode. Let me know whether this is an investment that I should be continuing to make in order for the content that you receive to be of optimal value. Again, I appreciate you listening. Take the time to share this episode, review the episode, and if you haven't subscribed yet, well, you've got the better part of 300 plus episodes to go back and check out. So get to subscribing, get to listening, and as always, best of luck in anything and everything you have going on in your world, and I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.